Hey everyone, this is Sean. Just letting everybody know that I'm going to be doing a series of videos with some fellows, uh, friends and acquaintances, I guess you might say, people I've connected with over the years. Um, we are gonna we're gonna do a little some skits on just training people on understanding the law and what's going on in the world and how the justice system is completely absent when it comes to you know talking about our freedoms or defending our freedoms. So um, now we did the show here, the first show, and it's coming up here. I just wanted to address a couple of things that were a bit of an issue. I actually brought up a document when I was speaking at the beginning, and this is the document right here. It actually wasn't showing up on the screen for some reason. It was just showing my web browser, and wanted to point out that this document is a key document in understanding the wording of our acts and codes, specifically addressing the word person, which is basically the major deception which is being used to control the people of the world on a global basis, actually. Um, Anyways, I just want to point out that this document is the one that I was talking about, and this is, if you need to find this, I'm going to go to my website here. Um, if you go to the document under case 8, case 8 tab, you'll see case 8 here, and you'll see another tab drop down where the documents are. That's the one you want to click on. This is the web page right here. And if you scroll past the video, the updates, which are old now, um, right past all the writing down to the notice of liability. Just kind of ignoring the notice of liability here at the moment. If you want to read that stuff, great. But the key documents here uh, are the one, actually, notice of application is one. This is a document that I filed. I don't discuss this in the video. This is a document I filed stating clearly and unequivocally who I am and who I'm not and what jurisdiction I exist in. And the other motion is a Meads versus Meads motion, where I'm probably going to be doing a show on this as part of the series, really getting into Meads versus Meads, because this is the one that really, this is the one that the courts and the Crown use, and this is a global, this document. It's Canadian case law that's being used around the world to shut people like us down who are actually trying to get the truth out in our courts, challenging jurisdiction and whatnot. Not to get into that. This is the one I was talking about right here, the second motion, the person motion, defining words in the acts and code. This is a really good read, and actually all these attachments here that are connected to these motions and applications here. These are the actual documents that were actually filed with our motions or my motion and the application, backing up everything that I'm saying. So very good read there. This is really important stuff. If you really want to understand how they've enslaved us, you want to take a look at this stuff. So a person motion, when I was addressing there, and a good read for everybody. And there was another motion there too in regards to de facto, we're living under a de facto authority, and Mythos Canada really gets into this. Anyways, I just want to leave everybody with that, pointing that out about the what I had left out, or what happened with the screen there, the screen share that didn't show up. Also, one other thing too, if people want to have a good understanding of what's going on, I have a law basics course, kind of giving a rundown. I did this a couple of years ago, and actually probably could use an update or a revised edition, but it's still really good information in there. Parts 1, 2, and 3 address one addresses this is all 2 hours long in total. So it's like 15, 20 minutes each part. It's a 6-part course. Just giving you a rundown on the basics. Like the first one is in regards to court procedures. Part 2 is ammo for defense. Part 3 is R versus Stinchcomb. R versus Stinchcomb is a Supreme Court of Canada court case law that basically states that everything must be on the table, to get to the truth. Okay, and that's not what's happening. I've had documents that I try to put in, evidence that I tried to put in, just simply being dismissed. It's just total corruption what's going on here. But anyways, part 4 is a constructive notice and declaration that I was giving to the police when I got pulled over. I've changed this up now, and I'm using some other documents like a judicial notice that we talked about in the show here coming up. And anyways, it's basically stating who and clearly and unequivocally, once again, who I am and who I'm not. It's about jurisdiction. And here's the document here, or the part 5 is the course in which I go over that document that I was talking about that I had up on the screen in the show that wasn't showing up. So if you want to review that, that's good stuff. And part 6, we're probably going to do a show on this as well, discussing common law, maxims of common law. These are long-standing principles that have been established over many, many years, like even going back to Roman times. They're indisputable truths in law. So excellent review. There's actually a couple of documents there too at the bottom, at the very bottom, if you want to look at a little further, including the maxims of common law and the search for natural law, which are documents in regards to a law course that I purchased from a U.S. law course that I purchased from one Dr. Frederick Graves. Actually, the law course is actually right here on my website if anybody wanted to purchase it. So anyways, just wanted to leave everybody with that quick update. So without further ado, let's get to the show.
Hey everybody, Big John, the Mythos Canada, Alberta. Many of you have probably seen my face around. It's been quite a few years since I've been behind the camera. Just kind of been taking a step back and absorbing what's happening around me, watching the gong show that we currently live in as things get worse for us every day. We now got elections coming up. We've got some serious thinking to do. Something just happened here. I lost you guys on my CBU underclocking detected. Really? Oh, there, now you're back. So, moving forward, I've managed to meet a bunch of gentlemen that have an abundance of information to share with you guys today. And it applies to each and every one of us as men and women on this landmass known as Canada. Now, if you follow the Mythos Canada information at all, you'll know our current lawful standing, not legal, because there is a difference. If you don't know what that is, I'd suggest educating yourself on it, because at the end of the day, we're in big trouble, and we have been for some time. We get reports all the time of people losing their homes, people moving into tent cities, people starving, food banks, lineups around the block, like all kinds of things are happening from coast to coast to coast. And the big question is, well, what can we do about it? How can we help those people? And first of all, why are we in this position? How did we get here and how are we going to fix it? So without further ado, I'm not sure what order we're going to go in here. I think Sean wanted to speak first. He's the fellow to my direct right. So take it away, Sean. Introduce yourself, tell them who you are, and let's get the show on the road.
Hey everybody, my name's Sean Casista. I'm actually one of the founders of the Mythos Canada. I've actually been fighting the government and the courts for quite some time. I have a website up, nomoretyranny.net, where I've documented quite a bit of it. I've been politically active since 9/11, and gathering a lot of information in regards to the corruption that's going on in the world, and been trying to do something about it for quite some time, as I've been involved in this for about 20 years now, over 20 years. And just to get started here, really at the end of the day, this is about the law of the land, the law that's supposed to protect each and every man. And the key word here is man. And we want to actually get into a couple of definitions, because that's what our law system is all about. It's about definitions, defining words and acts and codes and all this stuff, and in law dictionaries, and what maritime law is, what common law is. Common law is mostly in regards to the laws of nature, and by nature, man is the dominant species on the earth, and we all have equal rights over in regards to man, we all have equal rights. That may not appear that way in our courts and the way the system is set up, but we want to share some information here with you that will help. Actually, the phrase "knowledge is power" is I'm sure we're all aware of that phrase, and the more knowledge you have, the more power you have, and we need to stand up and use the law and learn it, and to use it to be able to defend ourselves with it. I mean, the next step after that is really guns and bullets, and we don't want to get there to that point. We don't want to see bloodshed. So anyways, I just want to start off with a couple of definitions. One's a really quick, easy one that we should, and by the way, this is stuff that we should all have been taught in schools, because if we all knew this stuff way back in the day, teaching it from one generation to another generation, we wouldn't be in this mess. And this is like basic stuff that we want to teach people. For one, the definition of the word free and freedom. I've looked through a number of dictionaries that I have online and whatever, and the simplest definition I came across was a 3-word definition for free or freedom, and that is opposed to slave or opposed to slavery. Okay, there is a common law principle, okay, which is a long established, indisputable truth, and it states and backs up that definition. It states all men are free men or slaves, or sorry, let me say that. All men are free men or slaves. So you're either free or you're a slave. There's no in between. Now, if you have if you know what your unalienable rights are, which needs to be another topic coming up in another video, you'll know that if you're being told or tricked or deceived or being forced to not be able to exercise these unalienable rights. For example, the unalienable right to move from A to B to C. That's just to get around. You need to do that. I mean, to survive, you need to move around from A to B to C with whatever is at your disposal. And as long as you don't hurt anybody else in the process, then there shouldn't be any kind of issue or anybody trying to stop you to do anything about it. Okay, but we're going to explain to you exactly how they did it, and this next definition is the word person. And now, I've been in the courts a number of times. Like I said, there's lots of documentation that I put up on my website. Some of it hasn't gone well. Some of it has worked. I'm still learning a lot of stuff. I actually put up a law course 2 years ago, and actually 2 weeks after that, I got arrested. And actually documented some of the stuff, tried some of the stuff that I put up on the website. And what's stopping me from moving forward and having success is one thing, is they are trying to stop me no matter what right now, because I've recorded a lot of stuff, I put it up on my website. That is a no-no, right? Like if I went in the courtroom and had success and I audio recorded it, video recorded, whatever, and came back and put it up on my website, what would that cause? That would cause like a revolution overnight. Everybody's got it figured out now. They can go and do the same thing. Well, they don't want that to happen. Their worst fear is everybody waking up to this and what's going on, and their way to do it is just force, and ignore the stuff that you're bringing forward. There's a lot of corruption going on, but at the end of the day, there are people out there that are having success, and these two fellows here that are with us, they're having success. And without ado, actually, we're going to get more into the topic of the word person. As actually, I should just really touch on my course here and some of the documents that you can actually read that I've actually filed in the courts. And it actually explains the definition of the word person. And I'm going to share my screen here. And I'm just going to go to one of these files here that I went over. And not to get too deep in it, I'm going to just quickly run through this and let the other fellows here continue with what they have to say. And okay, so I was charged under the Criminal Code, and I've been charged under actually acts and stuff like that, the Highway Traffic Act. Now, if you look at the word person, which is the word that they use in these acts and codes, okay, if you look in virtually every law dictionary, most specifically law dictionaries, it'll define the word person as two. One's a natural, one's artificial. Well, by nature, man is actually a term of nature. So man would apply to the natural sense of that word. So we're natural persons. But I prefer to use the word man because, like I said, it's a term of nature, and there's actually a common law maxim that states that exactly as well. The other word that defines person is artificial persons. And when they express that phrase, artificial persons, they attach it to corporations. And in the Criminal Code and the Highway Traffic Acts, they use the word person in those acts and codes. Now, if that act or code does not define the word person, which they usually don't, there's a place that you need to go to find the definitions of those words. In Ontario, we have the Legislation Act, which provides the definitions of words that aren't in acts. And also, we have the Interpretation Act, which is the Canada Act for defining words. Okay, and both of those, basically, they state at Section 87 and 87 of both these acts and codes and regulations. It states in every act and regulation, person includes a corporation. Now, and they virtually both say that, pretty much the same thing. And you can see this on this document. It's up on my website. We can provide the link for you here. I'll put it in the chat. Anyways, I'm just going to move on with this. So the key word here is the word includes. So what we did was we defined the word includes in the act. And wherever else we can find this, what does the word includes mean? In virtually every dictionary that we looked at, it means to contain. And there's a common law maxim, a common law principle that states pretty much defines what that means. It states the inclusion of one is the exclusion of another or all others. Okay, so again, to contain. So in every act and regulation, the word person is being used, and the definition for that word person is stating that it includes corporations, meaning it is contained to corporations. Now, how did we get tricked into this? Well, we're going to get these other fellows to explain that more, but I just wanted to share some definitions here that, well, this document here has definitions. If you want to look into it, look further into it. Actually, here's a section here out of the Criminal Code where it gives the definition of the word peace officer. And the Legislation Act has that, and I believe the actual Interpretation Act has it too. It describes the definition of the word person, and it uses the word includes as well when it's describing what a peace officer is. So, bailiff, whatever you can think of that would be a peace officer, somebody that works for the government. But anyways, it says it's giving you a list, and it uses the word includes, and it means to contain. Because if we didn't have that word includes there when it's describing what a peace officer is, then who would know what the heck a peace officer is, right? Because then it would be used in expansive sense. And we get into explaining that in that document. Actually, I can't take credit for writing this document myself. I wrote this up probably about 14 years ago now. And I did it with a couple of friends. I've revamped it a bit, and I had some other assistants in doing it as well. But it's a really well done document in regards to clarifying what the definition of the word person means in our acts and codes. So, and here's actually a couple of maxims in regards to using the words in these acts. Okay, so here's one that says, the words of a statute must not be departed from. In doubtful cases, the construction of the law is what the words indicate, meaning the word includes is clear when it states that the acts and codes only apply to corporations. Well, when you go to court and there's a name on the docket, what is that name? Where is that name coming from? Okay, actually, I'm gonna let Michael continue with this here, but before I do, I just want to point out there's some really excellent information here quoting case law in regards to the definition of the word person, William Blackstone's commentaries on the laws of England, which were created before Canada even existed, and it states clearly and unequivocally what a person is, and recognize that as in law. So anyways, again, I'm going to just move on here. Let Michael there take over. If you want to go ahead, Michael, I'm just going to get out of here.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? My name is Michael Douglas. And I just want to touch back. I know I'm going back a little bit here, but I want to touch back on mankind, because I want to help there's some ladies out there that some of them get a little upset when you say mankind, because it's, they don't think it includes them. But when you're writing in law, when they're writing woman, they put bracket, W-O, bracket, and then man. Because that means you're a womb man. You're a woman you're a man with a womb. So when they say mankind, that includes women too. It all includes everybody, not just men. Okay, so I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. And the word person, they have everybody trapped under it. So people don't understand that we're involved in the largest human trafficking ring on the planet. Everybody's a slave. So when they send you something in the all caps name in your mailbox, that all caps name means capitis diminutio maxima, and it means maximum loss and reduction of status when they took you of freedom and put you into bondage, slavery. Now, Sean just had a picture up there. I don't know if you could bring that back, Sean, of the government website, the linguistic website there. And it literally shows you, under Government of Canada, Terminology and Linguistic Data Bank. And when you scroll down to the definition, it says the diminution of a person's legal status as a result of being reduced to slavery. And you can see right there under definition, it says at the end, you're a slave. Okay? So that means when your name is in all capital letters, you are legally a slave by legal definition in Canada. Right? So what does that mean? It means you're a person. So because your name is in all capital letters, just like every gravestone, the name is in all caps, you're dead. You're a dead entity. And that's what Sean was getting to. There's two types. There's also entity, living and non-living entity. That's okay. So you are a non-living entity when your name's in all capital letters. You are a dead slave. And when you look under the Canadian definition of person, under Law Insider, it literally tells you it means any person in Canada or any Canadian outside of Canada, where person means an individual or a body, corporate, trust, partnership, fund, uncorporated association, or organization. So that means you're a corporation. That means every person is a corporation, and every corporation is a person. And under etymology definition of the word person, it means human being, actor, character, and false face, and came from the Latin word persona. So what's the importance of that, right? So all laws are called acts. because I believe it was 1931. They haven't been able to pass any laws. Everything's been an act. So why do they call it an act? Well, it's for the person, because the person means actor, character. So that's what it's for. That's why they call it an act. It's only for the actor. It's not for man and woman. So you have to take yourself outside of that person and become just a man or a woman. And this is why they're pushing gender so badly, is because you can call yourself a squirrel if you want to, because as soon as you call yourself anything other than man or woman, you have no rights anymore. You've lost all your rights. So what they're doing to everybody, and the best way out of this, is to start suing them for human trafficking you, because you're a slave. You're a person. So how do you get out of the person? You need a judicial notice. So what's a judicial notice? Well, that's a rule in law of evidence that the court must accept as long as the evidence is well known to the court or easily accessible to look up. So within this judicial notice, you can actually prove that you're not a person. You don't use the highway, waterways, airways, walkways for commercial use ever. You're not a driver or operator. You don't have a motor vehicle. All those things in your judicial notice, and the court has to accept it without questioning it. So as soon as you enter a courtroom and you give them your judicial notice, it changes the game right away. You're a man. You're not a person anymore. They have to accept that judicial notice. And then when you put your live life birth claim with it, that's your new birth certificate, basically. It's your live life birth, registration of live birth. So that, under your picture, says man. It doesn't say male. Under all your ID that everybody has from the government, it'll say male. That's a person. Under your new ID, it says a man. So that live life birth claim goes with your judicial notice, and it takes you out of the person in court. Does everybody get that? So
It's interesting how everyone's in a position now where there's been some serious word salad, word trickery going on when we've been put into this position of being a slave and having the government accountable for human trafficking without our knowledge or consent, I might add. Mm-hmm. It all stems back.
Yeah, they use
to the
they use trust. They use constructive trust.
Yeah. And as this goes on through life, the government will tell you that driving is a privilege, hunting is a privilege, all these things that are necessity for your quality of life, your inalienable rights, as they call them, unalienable rights under common law, they consider to be privileges, which in fact are not.
Do you know why they say that?
Things without permission, right?
So they say privilege because it's a privilege to get a license to do those things that you don't need a license for. And because you're getting a license, your license is actually to commit a crime, because you're not a driver, but you're going to get a driver's license. So if you were to say you were a driver and you're not, you're committing perjury. It's fraud. So that driver's license allows you to say you're a driver when you're not a driver, and that gives you the right to, that gives you the okay to do so. Same thing with hunting. You're not hunting, you're feeding your family. Hunting is for sport and for making money. Feeding your family is not. Same thing with fishing. If you look up all the definitions for fishing, it all leads back to commerce and sport. So you have to take yourself out of that crap, right? So that's how they get you with that.
Commerce or sport. So, and you would do this with a judicial notice then, to the fish shop, for example?
Yep.
And
Yep.
What if this guy doesn't recognize it?
The cops won't. It's about the court.
If I can interject for a second, one of the most powerful judicial notices that you can create and utilize is called an affidavit of truth.
Mm-hmm.
You go and swear out an affidavit of truth and have it notarized by a lawyer, and it stands as undisputed fact unless someone can prove it to not be a truth.
Yeah.
It's a very
the judicial notice
affidavit is a very, very powerful document that you can create on your own. Sorry to interrupt, Michael. I'll let you get back to it.
That's no problem. So yeah, the judicial notice is the same. You create it on your own. You don't have anybody else do that for you, and you have it notarized. But when you say lawyers, they're never going to, unless you have a good friend that'll do it, you'll never have a lawyer notarize a judicial notice because they cannot tell you what a person is or what a person isn't. They are gagged under the bar code, so they can't speak about it. And if they do, they're in a lot of trouble. They lose their license and possibly go to prison for doing it. So that's why you can't use a lawyer. When you get a lawyer, it's called praes paren. It means you're a child. It means you can't take care of yourself. And that's why most people lose in court, because they're getting a parent to do it for them. They're a child. When you go in on your own, it's called sole jury. And when you go in on your own, you're a man. You're not an actor. You're not a person. Just like when they give you a ticket, they'll say you have to appear in person. Well, you can appear in person, so that means you don't have to go to court, period. You don't have to go because you're not a person. And that's why on the bottom they say if you don't appear, they could go ahead and set judgment against you, but they don't say they will. They say they could. They scare you, right? Because you're not a person. They know you're not a person. So the court's not even for you to begin with. You don't even have to step foot in there when you get a ticket. It's only for the person. So when I got a ticket, it said, 2 years ago, it said, not guilty, so I just sent it back, and I said, I do not consent. Well, they sent it back to me saying, well, we don't know what you want to do. And I'm like, okay, so this is going to work. So I'm like, now I'm going to check this box, not guilty. Send it back. Well, then I got a court date. They sent the paperwork back, said I must appear in person. So I phoned the clerk, and I said, well, I can't appear in person. I'm not a person. She goes, well, don't appear then. Don't show up. I don't care. See what happens. I'm like, well, I'm asking you a question. How do I appear in person when I'm not a person? How do I do that? She goes, well, you're the one that requested a court date. You're the one that checked the box. And then it hit me right there in the nose like somebody punched me. Like Mike Tyson just smoked me one. I took myself to court. That's called a constructive trust. That's three coming together to overthrow the one. Also known as a quasi-contract, also known as a Trinity contract, like the Matrix movie. Trinity means three, Neo means one, three coming together to overthrow the one, which is you. So I took myself into court. Which if I didn't sign that box and I just wrote on the envelope, I do not consent, you operate under the color of right, send it back to them. They'll send it to you 3 times in total. You send it back 3 times and it disappears, no more. They only have 3 chances to contract with you, and after that it's gone. It's all about the number 3. 3 coming together to overthrow the one, 3 chances to send it back, and 3 days to rescind any ticket or fine in Canada. You have 72 days, or 72 hours. It's all about the number 3. Just like in order to get into Parliament, they have to the whip has to knock 3 times on the Parliament door before they let you in. So as long as you don't contract with them, they can't do anything to you. When I got arrested in Peterborough, when I got caught 2 years ago, no license, no insurance, failed to identify, failed to show ownership of the car. So they stopped me because I went through a yellow light. It was snowstorm, so I went through a yellow light. They said I went through a red. I said, no, I didn't. I argued with them. I got it on tape. They said, you're a driver of a motor vehicle. I said, no, I'm not. This is private automobile. I'm traveling. No, you're a driver. This is an SUV. So because she said that, I know she knew what the language was. Because if you look under the vehicle definition of Ontario, Government of Ontario, it'll give you SUV in there, but it'll tell you have to use it 50% to 100% of the time for it to become a motor vehicle. If you don't use it in business 50% to 100% of the time, it's an automobile, not a motor vehicle. So she did know the language. So then she says, you're an operator. And I said, no, I'm not an operator. Well, they ended up arresting me, put me in the back of the car, and when she's reading my rights, she keeps looking back and says, do you understand what I'm telling you? I said, no, I stand under no one. She read my rights some more, and she said a second time, do you understand what I'm telling you? I said, no, I stand under no one. She gets all mad, freaks out, and says, how do you not understand what I'm telling you? I said, well, I don't understand how you are so non-educated. And then she asked me one more time, do you understand what I'm saying? And I said, no, I stand under no one. She immediately took the handcuffs off me, let me go, and I took my car home all the way for an hour. I was an hour from home. She allowed me to travel all the way home. They tried 3 times to contract with you. So what that officer was asking me when she said, do you understand what I'm telling you? She was asking, do you stand under me? To which I said, no, I stand under no one, all 3 times. And then she had to let me go. I didn't contract. That's how it works. It's all about contract.
So,
Yeah, I just want to point out there.
oh, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that you got to remember something too, that you're dealing with so many people, and different people have so much different knowledge. Some people are aware, some aren't. Mostly cops, they don't know jack shit. I mean, they're just following orders. They're in complete violation of the Nuremberg principle where following orders is no excuse. You're infringing on people's rights, and there's no excuse for that. That's where we're at. But yeah, at the same day, you want to still, if enough people learn this and have it in them to, once the light bulb comes on, start testing it with even minor tickets and stuff like that. Go into the courts and start testing stuff. And,
I got 60,000 times 2 because I got nailed in Peterborough, and then I got nailed in Picton, and I ended up getting 60 grand times 2 plus 2 years in jail for failure to identify, all thrown out because I'm not a person. And I told them that. I didn't even have a judicial notice at the time. And every time I told, because you're not fighting the court, you're fighting the prosecutor. That's who you're fighting. So you have to deal with the prosecutor. So your first thing when you get nailed is you need to send the prosecutor all the information you know. Because if you do that, it's going to get thrown out if they know that you know. Unless you want to prove it in court, then you play stupid until you get in there. That's the only way of doing it. You have to play like you're, baggy pants down to your ankles, kind of dumb. Or else they're not going to allow you in court to set a precedent, which that happened to me. So what I did is I gave her everything I knew. I'm not a person. I'm not a driver. I'm not an operator by the legal definition, because the legal definition of driver means one who is hired. The legal definition of operator means employee. And there's only 2 types of motor vehicles in Canada, in Ontario and Canada. 1, to transport goods and equipment. 2, to transport passengers. Well, the legal definition of the word passenger means one who has paid a fare. So it's all about commerce. And if you look at what I have here, I'll read it to you. Case citation, Supreme Court of Canada, 1932, CANL, Roman number 2, 29 SCC, proves classes C, D, E, F, and G licenses are for hire. They're for commercial vehicles only. That is a court citation. It's already a precedent set. So people need to start fighting back, but they need the right information to do so. So first of all, they need a judicial notice or the affidavit of truth. They need their new ID that gets them out of the government name, because nobody has a last name. Your real name is your first and middle name. Nobody has a last name. You can't be your family. That's where they have you. They also get you in court when you're an owner. You can't be an owner of anything. Only a person can be an owner. Only an actor or character can be an owner of anything. You are of this earth. You go back to this earth when you die. You can't take anything with you. You're just a caretaker. So the first way they get you is when you go into court, the first thing they ask you is what your name is. Well, if you say my name is, well, you're an owner. You have to say my given name is.
I have a question.
Yep.
Well, so if you're right. When you die, you can't take nothing with you. That includes your money with all these rich people that tend to want to through us to get it. Now, okay, I go out and buy a new pickup. If I don't own it, who does? How is it my property?
Because it's your property while you're here. You don't own it. It's your caretaker of everything. That's why you have CO in front of your address, your care of.
So you're the caretaker.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Only a person can own anything.
Gotcha.
But that's why they want you to have an ownership on that truck. They want you to say you're an owner. So you have an automobile, a private automobile, until you go down to the DMV, the License Bureau, and you register it. Well, now that you register it, you get an ownership. You're now an owner. You're now a person. Now you have to abide by all their laws and rules and regulations. Whereas if you didn't register it, it stays an automobile and you can use it without any of that crap. So the word registration literally means, by law, you are giving away what you are registering to whom you're registering it to, which means you don't own it anymore. So as soon as you register anything, that's why they can ticket you. That's why they can stop you, because they own your car, not you anymore. It's a motor vehicle and they own it.
Yeah, I've heard this before, actually. So what happens in the case of an accident then? And before you answer that, I'd like to take this opportunity to tell our audience to follow these three guys. Michael's is Freedom Warrior MD. Duke is Duke Willis, I believe. And Sean, I don't remember the name of yours because I haven't messaged you enough to know it. So could you tell the audience what it is? Let's get some more followers.
You're on mute, Sean.
So that we
You mean my website?
we want to start doing shows live on TikTok.
Your TikTok.
We're using another program right now, and we want to get away from that. So tell the audience what your TikTok account is so they can go and follow you.
Oh, Liberty, not Slavery, is mine.
Okay.
Liberty, not slavery.
All one word.
And now back to the question there, Michael. What happens if you're driving down the road then and you get in an accident with someone?
Well, Duke's got something here to say here.
Position we are, right? We've chosen to become a man or a woman, and they have also done this, but you don't know this person. So now there's an accident. Neither one of you have insurance. How's that damage paid for? What happens?
Okay, well, before I answer that, Duke is waving here.
Oh,
Yeah,
Go ahead there, Duke.
there's been a number of things talked about here that I want to comment on. First of all, Sean, you mentioned, and Michael, I think you mentioned it as well, that there are international law dictionaries and all kinds of other definitions of words. In Canada, in this corporation called Canada, the bottom line, so to speak, the rule is that in Canada, the Canadian government reigns supreme, meaning the Interpretations Act of Canada, as produced and published by the corporation in Ottawa, it is the ultimate definition of words, regardless of what Ballantyne's or Bouvier's or Black's Law dictionaries may define words to be. And in Canada, the Interpretations Act clearly states the word person or any word indicative of person means a corporation. Now, the reason a lot of you ask, how did they do this? And actually I know that what you're really wanting to ask is, why did they do this? The how is simple. Most of the deception took place, or at least the laying of the foundation for the progressive deception took place in the 1930s. I point out my personal experience. My father was born in 1932 and never had a birth certificate. My mother was born in 1936 and had a birth certificate. Why? Because in the mid-30s, they realized that the birth certificate is what allowed them to convert you, a living man or woman, into a corporation that they, as a corporation themselves, could then lawfully, under international law, interact with. International law states that for all contracts to be valid, a contract can only exist between like kind. So the corporation that is your local or provincial or federal government cannot contract with a living man. They can only contract with another corporation. How do they make you into that corporation? Through your birth certificate. Because when you register something, Bruce, be quiet. In order to register, you must abandon that property to the entity to whom you are registering it with. So that's why we as Canadians don't have parental rights. We're not the parents. Yep. We are the renters. We are the custodians, not the parents. We gave up our parental rights when we applied for that birth certificate by abandoning our children to the government. I see Sean going nuts there. He wants to comment something. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I think it's really important.
We'll get back to you, John.
I think it's important to point this out. You mentioned about the Canada and it's the supreme laws and the Interpretation Act and all that. That's about Canada, right? Okay, so
the corporation that calls itself Canada, not a sovereign entity.
okay, so that the Interpretation Act gives you the definition of Canada, and here's what it says. Okay, Canada. For greater certainty includes what we were talking about before. That means it contains, okay? It includes the internal waters of Canada and the territorial sea of Canada. And then it goes on about the definition of Canadian waters. And then it's defined as Canadian waters includes the territorial sea of Canada and the internal waters of Canada. Okay, so Canada, that's all this corporate shit. It's the laws of the sea. It's maritime law. It's the laws of the sea.
Yeah.
And,
it's the gold fringe.
Michael will start telling you about the vessel and the port and all that stuff, right? Because that's how they trapped us all.
Yeah, so they put a gold fringe around it. So what? Sorry, go ahead.
It's the same with the Canadian Citizenship Act and what's deemed a Canadian person. The Canadian Citizenship Act says that you need to be deemed a person born on a Canadian registered aircraft or a Canadian registered vessel.
Yep.
So where is the land in either one of those descriptions, people? People need to start asking questions.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So 1969, when they landed on the moon, they looked back at the Earth and they said, oh, look at that, a globe in a sea of darkness. On that day, they put the whole world into commerce. That was their symbol of their takeover. And then they put the gold fringe around the flag, and they're a vessel. And because they're a vessel, they're no different than the courts. The courts have a gold fringe around their flag, and when you walk into a court, it's a foreign country to you, and you can demand diplomatic immunity. People don't understand that. Because they're a foreign country. You're not of Canada. Canada's a corporation, not a country. It's traded over the internet. Everybody can find out that information. Well, maybe not now. They're taking a lot of stuff off there. But they made the whole world commerce. They put everything into commerce.
Yeah, my audience knows that they can go to DunandBradstreet.com and look up the government of Canada, and it comes up in non-traded commodities, a corporate registration for the Government of Canada, Inc., 1982. My audience here on TikTok also knows that if they want any proof that none of Ottawa's promises and paperwork apply to them, simply look at that decorative copy of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms that everybody holds up, that one that looks like a sheepskin, an old parchment paper that's only got about maybe 10% of the actual charter printed on it. But if you look at that copy, evil has to tell you the truth. You just have to look for it and find it. In the bottom right-hand corner of that parchment paper is Section 32 of the Charter, and Section 32 states, this section is to clarify the application of this act. This act applies to, number one, the federal legislature and the members thereof. Number two, the provincial legislatures and the members thereof. Closing statement, this section is to clarify that this act does not apply to any man, woman, group, organization, or corporation. It doesn't apply to you, ladies and gentlemen. You don't have charter rights. You have
no. It's only for the person. Yeah, it's only for the person. But at the same time, you can use it against the governments and the corporations, because what they've done to you is this thing they call mirroring. So they just turn the mirror on you, and all the laws that only are for them are now for us. And they just, all we got to do, turn the mirror around, turn it back around. So Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Section 11C, subsection 3, it states, any person, a corporation, cannot be a witness to anything. That means a police officer can't be a witness. Any corporations can't be a witness. That means credit card companies, mortgage companies, any of these people, they can't come after you, they can't charge you, they can't nail you, they can't sue you. Not one of them can be a witness to anything. That means they can't be a victim to anything. You just have to know it. That's all it takes. And it gives you a court case to prove it. It's Amway Corporation versus Canada. The judge deemed a corporation is incapable of being a witness. That means every single person, because it says person of corporation can't be a witness. If you go into court, and this goes to Big John's discussion about if you crash or somebody tries to sue you or something, right? If you want to be a jerk and not take care of it, I don't think anybody should do that. But you go into court, and the first thing you do is get them to admit to being a person. You say, do you admit to being this person on your driver's license? Is this you? They say yes. You say, well, Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Section 11C, subsection 3 says any person can't be a witness. You are a person. But what I suggest, if you do get into an accident, you're an adult, you're a man or woman, you take care of your affairs. You don't have insurance, so you have to pay. You have to take care of what the damage you've done, right? Or you should know better and not go out on the road. Like if you get too old and senile, you should know not to do that. Right? So if you get into an accident, that's your dumbass, you're going to have to come good for it. But if somebody else hits you, it's no fault insurance. If they have insurance, they got to pay you. They got to pay for theirs. You got to take care of your own. So either way, the insurance does not affect you.
So if the audience wants to learn more about becoming a man or a woman and leaving the fictional world of your all caps name, which is literally everything, where do they start to do that? How do they do that? What does it look like?
There's a bigger step. I'm sorry, Michael. There's a bigger step.
No, go ahead.
I went through this, and I did not prepare myself psychologically to the extent that I should have, because it is a big psychological step.
Yeah.
You first have to be able, not willing, able to absolutely unlearn everything you've ever believed in from what your great-grandparents told your grandparents, who told your parents, who told you. If you cannot mentally, in your own head, flush all that down the toilet as if it never existed, and be prepared psychologically and emotionally to rebuild yourself as this new entity, don't enter this, because when push comes to shove, you will crack and fail and cause yourself more nightmares. I have been held at gunpoint in the middle of an intersection in Niagara Falls by 4 Niagara Regional Police officers who wanted to know who the hell I was.
So I'm going to jump in there.
Yeah, okay, now that that disclaimer's out there and people know that this is more than just thumbing your nose at the cops. If you don't do this with the right attitude and the right background knowledge, it'll come back to bite you in the ass. As Doug Force put it to me, it is a two-edged sword. One side can cut you just as easily as the other side cuts your enemy.
Yep.
I'm done now. Go ahead, Michael.
So I totally agree with you. This isn't for the faint of heart. But when I want to mention there, when you said cops had guns on you and stuff like that, I want you to keep in mind there, do what they tell you to do. Don't fight them. Don't sit there and argue with them, because you can't change the constable's mind on the side of the road. That's not who you're going to fight with. You're going to fight with the judge, and you're going to fight with the prosecutor. That's who your fight's with. Don't argue with these people. Do what they want you to do and sue them afterwards, and just make sure it's all on camera. Film everything.
You have to realize that the police are 9 times out of 10 dumber than you are. They don't know what you know. They only know what they were taught in a 6-week academy course, if they even got that much advanced schooling. Okay?
Yep.
They were taught how to wrestle you to the ground and drag you out of your car. They were taught how to put cuffs on you. They were taught to intimidate you. They weren't taught to listen to logic. So don't waste your time talking to them. And that's kind of how I wound up there. Is the 2 cops that pulled me over didn't know who I was. They couldn't identify me, and because of that, they went off the deep end of, you're some kind of criminal. It was Niagara Falls. They deal with international criminals all the time, right?
Yep.
Yeah, if I have to interrupt, I just want to say, that we got to, there's a way to do it. and there's a way not to do it. And like Michael just said there, but at the same time, like what we're doing here is we're providing knowledge to people. Like I said, knowledge is power. It will empower you once you start sharing this knowledge with other people, especially the young kids. It's their future, and if they actually they're the ones that are going to come flying out of nowhere because they're younger and they just learn so much more faster than we do. It's just, it's the way it's been, right? Kids are a lot smarter. They'll wake up when they see their freedoms or they see what's really going on. They're the ones that are going to really stand up, right? And once we start flooding schools and stuff like that, go ahead.
Yeah, so people need to just understand that this whole thing is language. It's all language. Learn the definitions. So every time they do this to you, they troll you over, they do anything and try to charge you stuff, it is called constructive fraud. It is misrepresentation of material facts to which a third party relies, which is you. They keep secrets. They don't tell you they're going to change your name to all caps. They don't tell you they're going to use your name for commerce. They don't tell you any of this crap, which is misrepresentation. It's called constructive fraud. And they all do it.
Wow. Well, we're down to about 8 minutes left. What a power pack of information on today's show, as I suspected it would be. These three gentlemen are absolutely brilliant. It's important to know that, in the society we live in, we are susceptible. We know that the police aren't our friend. We know that they're out there for monetary gain, and they work on monetary policy. Same with the judicial system, the health system. By no means are we telling people to go break the law at all. We want everyone to stay within their rights and live proper as a man, be it in common.
And certainly try to
or be it in the system. Either way, be a good person. Don't be an ass, right?
And certainly try to understand this stuff before you go out and try this stuff.
That's right.
Learn it before you try it. Like simple words like when a police officer gives you an order. If he says, give me your driver's license, you look at that police officer, is that an order? The police will say yes. Well, the word order means to hire. So tell the police officer that you charge $5,000 a minute to sit there and listen to him. Would he like to continue? And make sure everything is on camera.
Yeah.
John, I have 2 quick points I'd like to make here. One is to you. One is directly to you. I would like you to research the difference in the word unalienable and unalienable. The original U.S. Constitution, actually the Bill of Rights, where it says these rights are unalienable, the original I believe it was 1789 when the American Bill of Rights was finally created, it read unalienable, meaning conditions cannot be applied to it. Unalienable is exactly what you have in Canada. Your right to travel can't be taken away, but it can have conditions put on it, just like they did during COVID. Yes, you can get on a plane in Montreal and fly to Banff as long as you have the jab. That is a alienable condition. An unalienable right means that absolutely no conditions can be applied to it. And where that document goes on to state that they cannot be infringed means that they can't be taken away from you or alienated from you. What they did in 1878 when they passed the Second Organic Act and created the corporation called the United States, they rewrote the Constitution and changed unalienable to unalienable. The word, by the way, the word alien didn't exist or wasn't in practical use in 1770s and early 1780s. That word wasn't popularly used by governments until the late 1800s, rather, 1870s, after the Civil War, when there were foreigners in the territorial area that America was claiming. They started using the word alien. So in 1776 or 1783, when it was completed, the word alien wouldn't have been in their Bill of Rights or in their Constitution. That's just one wordplay that we all fall victim to. The other thing I wanted to point out is, and I've almost forgotten where I was going with this. Oh, any one of you can reference the documents that we've been referring to from the Canadian government. You can go on the Canadian government's website and open up a copy of the Interpretations Act. An interesting part in there is where it defines the word province. According to the federal government of provinces, Prince Edward Island, the Yukon, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut. None of the other 10 provinces are listed.
Brain teaser.
So I want to go back to that word. That wordplay you were talking about there when you said United States. So UN means no, and IDED means citizen. So it literally means no citizens of the United States. That's what United means.
And originally, when it was created in 1776, there were no citizens of the United States. They didn't exist until the 14th Amendment, that not only freed the slaves, but as a secondary part of that legislation, again, why Benjamin Franklin and the original founding fathers pushed hard for regulations that would have kept any government laws being passed as singular acts, not combined and intertwined. In the 14th Amendment, not only did it free slaves, it enslaved all the rest of the Americans by creating a thing called a citizen of the United States. There had never been one until then. The original 13 colonies, they were citizens of their individual states, which is what we see being reflected in the modern state-national movement in the U.S., where people are leaving their American citizenship and becoming a state national of the state that they live in.
Yeah, and people need to realize that anything under the word person is citizen, is national, it's human being, it's him, her, he, she, male, female, him, it's anything that's not man or woman, literally, it's customer, it's party. All these definitions mean a person, not a man or woman, and you'll never find man or woman written in any act or any law. It'll only mention the person.
Man is a term of nature. God created man, gave man dominion over the earth.
Yep.
Right at the, also
See, that's
right
how you
the,
tell if books are... Yep.
I was
This
gonna
goes
say
back to the Sedequay Act. Sedequay Act of 1666, the year that made all men and women dead, 666.
Yeah. I would also just quickly point out that reference to the Bible. The word dominion is not synonymous. It doesn't mean the same as ownership. In fact, you can research numerous dictionaries and compare the definitions, and you'll find that the best definition or description of dominion, or one who has dominion, is caretaker or curator. It's yours to look after. If you benefit from it,
That's a good one.
it's not yours to own. It's yours to look after. And the Bible says, I'm not a biblical man by any stretch of the imagination, okay? Far from it.
Yep.
But if you want to reference that book, the book says God gave man dominion. That's not ownership.
Yeah, you have to be...
Custodian.
Yeah, when we can get into that. We get into the Bible. I mean, I could be here like God backwards is dog. The end of civilization would be dogma. You know,
Well, yeah,
communion.
I don't want to open that can of worms, Michael. Trust me.
No. Yeah. Like the whole, you know, even so. Get this one. Like Adam came before Eve, right? But he had a wife before Eve, and that's why Eve was named Eve, because the word Eve means before. It doesn't mean after Adam, it means before Adam.
And God's instructions to Adam and Eve were to replenish the earth, replenish
Yep.
man.
And what happened to Lilith?
How can they be the first ones if they're there to replenish what was there before them? What came first, the chicken or the egg?
Okay. So Lilith was Adam's first wife that they don't mention because she wouldn't stick to the script. She was, she ate all the apples, she did all the stuff, she wanted all the clothes, she did all that. Right? Well, then they brought Eve in. Yeah. Yeah. And then they brought Eve in, and Eve literally means before Adam, but nobody's seeing that correlation. But anyway, we shouldn't get into that.
Actually, I think the TikTok event ended. Hey, John, did the TikTok come to an end or what?
No, give me a warning that we got 4 minutes left, so I think we should do our final thoughts and
Yeah, nice.
shut her down. Yeah.
Okay.
We're wrapping up.
I'll just say that, hey, I think everybody needs to keep in mind that, we're at war here. It's more of a, kind of, it's a spiritual war.
That's what it
Yeah,
is.
so I mean, like we need good against evil. The evil people are running the planet. I mean, it's their worst fear is people waking up to what's going on there and not, and doing something, even if it's just educating other people about what's going on. The numbers will increase, and we'll win this in the end. That's all I wanted to say.
What's Rowdy Piper's movie with the glasses? Is that a lie? Is that what that movie was? What's that movie? He puts on the glasses.
It's called
They live? No. They live?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the best movies you can watch to find out what's going on nowadays.
I
You
have
put on the glasses, you see the world for what it is. You take the glasses off, you see everything in smoke. Nice. Because let's remember, guys, it's not seeing is believing, it's believing is seeing. They have it backwards. It's not seeing is believing, it's believing is seeing. That's what it is.
My turn?
Yes, sir.
I just want to say the same thing I tell people at the end of my shows. If you're questioning what's right, who's lying and who's telling you the truth, if you've got all these question marks bouncing around in your head and you can't figure things out, slow down for a minute. Close your eyes, cover your ears, listen to your heart. It knows the truth. And when you hear it, stay the course and resist the evil that surrounds us. That's all I've got to say.
Well
Very
said,
good.
Mr. Duke.